What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. What do we know about werewolves? And do these creepy creatures really once lived or still live with us on the same planet? In science, the word werewolf is neatly replaced by the term lycanthrope. Coming from the Greek language, it literally translates as wolfman. True, some dictionaries interpret lycanthropy as turning a witch into a wolf. Experienced doctors of the past describe various cases of mental disorders in their patients, when a person literally went crazy, suggesting to himself that he was able to reincarnate into some animal. A wolf, a dog, a horse, a cat, it doesn't matter. However, all these are only extant references to acute mental illness. But what about the strange and mysterious stories preserved in old archives in different parts of the world? Records of priests, doctors' notes, police notes, and other mentions in old chronicles on behalf of various chroniclers. Let's hear about some of them. In 1598, in Conde County, France, the locals were greatly frightened by a series of gruesome murders, so bloody and inhumane that people began to talk about the appearance of the cannibal wolf. The boiling point was the death of a little girl. Eyewitnesses reported 3 wolves spotted near her body at once. Immediately afterward, people in Conde County sounded the alarm. Tired of the atrocities of an unknown murderer, and having gathered courage, a group of peasants went to the forest to bring the body of the child from there. When they arrived at the place, they noticed only one wolf, which, according to witnesses' accounts, with a single leap rushed and disappeared into the thicket. Chasing the bloodthirsty beast, the peasants found a ragged man with a tangled beard, long disheveled hair, and crazy eyes in the bushes. Of course, the man was immediately seized and taken to the magistrate. During further questioning, the man confessed that he was none other than a werewolf. Moreover, the man said that the 2 wolves seen with him recently are his brother and sister, who are also able to turn into wolves with the help of magic ointments. This story does not carry any details of further questioning. It is only known that the accused was treated, for those times, too humanely. Yes, at first the court sentenced him to death, but soon, apparently having recognized him as a madman, a panel of judges from Paris insisted that a madman could not be tried. So the verdict was reconsidered, and the strange criminal was sent to an asylum for the rest of his days. Very similar to this evidence of the same 16th century is the record of a strange case of a Frenchman who confessed to communicating with a wolf and taking the form of this beast after a deal with the devil. That Frenchman's name was Jean Perel. Before his execution in 1518, he managed to confess to the judges how he hunted people, turning into a wolf. It is worth noting that here too, it was reported about transformations, with the help of some special ointment. Note that this is another mention of some magical substance capable of changing a person. It is also interesting that when the accused was telling how exactly he made this ointment, several people in the courthouse fainted. Also, the investigation had speculations that Perel lived with wolves, hiding them in his house. Yes, this werewolf was much less fortunate, and after prolonged torture, the unfortunate man was sentenced to be burned, and his ashes were scattered to the wind. Legends about werewolves can be found, probably, among any nation. The legend of a werewolf from Meath, who allegedly invited a priest to take care of his sick wolf wife, is especially noteworthy. Incidentally, it was in Ireland that there was a belief that this scourge could infect entire families, turning them into werewolves. But one of the most notorious cases of lycanthropy was the story of a werewolf from Bordeaux, again France, in the late 18th century. During a certain period of time, the neighborhood of the village of Saint-North became a slaughterhouse, where horrible and mysterious events began to happen one after another. Wolves began to regularly attack people and livestock, and more often than not, such incidents ended in someone's death. Fear of bloodthirsty predators soon made people lock themselves up at night with all the locks and bolts, afraid to stick their noses out until the morning. Though it didn't help much, the wolf attacks continued, as did the human deaths. Wolves caught up with the unfortunate both day and night. Margaret Poirier, a local girl tending sheep near the village of Saint-Antoine, Pizon, once described how she personally fought off an attacking beast with a stick. From her descriptions, however, one could surmise that this was no ordinary wolf. Yes, it looked like a wolf, but it was shorter and thicker, had red fur, a short tail, and a smaller head than usual. After a while, the mysterious killer wolf was caught. The case turned out to be most unusual because it was not just a wolf, but a man-wolf. It looked like a guy about 15, 16 years old. He turned out to be a shepherd working for a wealthy landowner who lived near Saint-Sever. The captured teenager introduced himself as Jean Grenier. Interrogated by the judges, he explained that once in the forest he had met a demon who introduced himself as the master of the forest. The demon swore him an oath to serve him, but in return he gave him the ability to turn into a wolf. How? Later told Grenier himself. He said he possessed a wolf's skin and periodically went hunting for children at the command of his master. Before turning into a wolf, the boy hid his clothes in the thicket and rubbed himself with some unusual ointment stored in his pot. And again this ointment. Strange, isn't it? Even his very young age could not save Grenier's life. Like all those afflicted with lycanthropy before him, he was condemned and publicly executed. It is also worth noting that after the execution, attacks on people and animals stopped. An even more surprising incident occurred in the late 16th century in Auvergne, where a wealthy gentleman named Sanros lived. When he came to join his friend Ferrol on a hunting trip, he found him standing there all agitated, barely breathing, with torn clothes and bloodstains. When Sanros asked him what happened, Ferrol told him an incredible story. In pursuit of a group of deer, the hunter had to go deep into the forest. Realizing that it would take him a long time to get back, he changed his mind and turned for home. Suddenly, he heard a terrible roar from an overgrown ravine. Slowly stepping back and keeping his eyes on the place, so Ferrol walked about 50 meters. At some point, the bushes stirred, an even louder growl sounded, and a huge wolf rushed at the hunter. Ferrol wanted to make a shot, but stumbled and missed. The beast came at the hunter with frantic cries, trying to claw at his throat. Ferrol's lightning-fast reaction saved him. He hit the beast with the buttstock, and it fell down. The wolf got up and continued to attack again. The hunter took a knife in his hands and with courage went to the advancing enemy. In the unequal fight, Ferrol managed to quickly wrap his cloak around his left hand and put it in the wolf's mouth. While the wolf tried to bite through the defense, the hunter struck with his sharp dagger. Man and beast fell to the ground and rolled on the leaves in a furious fight. At one point, they found themselves at a fallen tree, and in the commotion, the wolf's paw caught on the tree trunk. Without thinking, Ferrol struck it with his dagger and severed the paw, severing tendons and bone. The beast let out a howl, more like a scream, then broke free and ran away. The hunter thought that the wounded beast should be found and killed. Loading his musket, he looked around and realized that if he stayed here any longer, he would have to go home in the dark. Ferrol didn't want that. It was already late and he went to the house, meeting his friend Sanros on his way. Sanros's breathtaking tale was overpowering. Ferrol grinned and pointing at the sack said, "And I brought the paw of this beast with me. Here, see for yourself, so you won't say I'm lying later." The hunter went into the bag, took something out of it, and then dropped this something on the grass with a shout. "I don't understand anything," Ferrol whispered in horror. It was a wolf's paw. Sanros bent down to look and also froze with horror. On the grass lay the freshly severed hand of a human hand, and apparently a woman's. But what was even more horrifying was that Sanros noticed several rings on the fingers. One of them was made in the shape of a spiral and a blue topaz. He recognized it at once. After all, it was his spouse's ring. Sanros, confused, wrapped the brush in a rag and wandered home. There he found his wife lying in bed in a semi-conscious state. She was pale and covered with bloodstains. Madame's life was saved. The doctor who arrived immediately began to treat the wounds. As it turned out, the hand was severed. The woman later confessed to her husband that she was a werewolf. The trial began, and soon Madame Sanros was burned at the stake. From that moment on, werewolves never appeared in the vicinity of Auvergne again. A well-known and respected French judge of his day dealt with werewolf cases. In his books, he described various cases and speculations on the subjects of lycanthropy and witchcraft. Regarding lycanthropy, aka werewolfism, his version goes something like this. It is as if Satan deludes people into thinking they are wolves by stirring up body fluids and giving them rubbing agents to dull their senses. People who experience hallucinations and imaginary transformations become tools in Satan's hands. Witnesses to such transformations are also deceived by the unclean power, which by distorting their sight makes them believe that they see a man become a wolf. Trials were thus directed against demonic and subversive forces in the human community. Witches and werewolves were to be punished and eliminated. Bogue also insists that the devil does not have the power to change the nature of man, whom God created in his own image, and that only God can create new forms of life. However, we should not underestimate the devil's influence on human life, for he is the father of lies and the agent of all evil. Well, these theories were written several centuries ago, and remembering the strong influence of religion on the consciousness of people of that time, it is easy to guess that any bad deed was necessarily attributed to the devil. However, one should not exclude the possibility of gene mutation experiments, interference of another mind, or other unknown higher forces. In our world, every day, there are a million oddities that defy simple and logical explanation. And as they say, if you don't understand something, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. What do you think about the existence of werewolves? Is it really possible? Write in the comments. Who liked it? Click thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.